And the other, I want to also recognize Bill Moore. Bill was one of the, not only did he give up this evening because of a birthday party, but back in 92, 93, he was one of 15 of us that gave up 10 and a half months in order to be able to help address a problem that the City Council back in 1992 recognized they had. The same problem we have today. Right, Bill? Right, Joanne? Okay. At that time, the City Council gave us clear instructions, and we came back and revisited those clear instructions on a number of occasions. And those clear instructions were, we want a recommendation from you guys that is a long-term fix. We don't want slash and gouge. We want a long-term fix. Now, those were our instructions. But as we got into it, we realized what they wanted was cut and gouge. And they wanted sacrificial lambs. And so we were perfectly willing to be sacrificial lambs back there if it meant a long-term solution. Well, when we got finished, we made a recommendation that we believed would be a long-term solution. And that solution was, you got to stop doing business the way you are, and you have to change, you have to start doing business differently. And we referred them to what Fairfield was doing differently at the time. Now, if you compare and contrast the budget process, Fairfield approves a 2-year budget in 2 weeks. In the last 15 years, we haven't approved a 1-year budget in less than 5.5 months. And in the last 2 years, we spent virtually every single month trying to balance the budget. Why? Okay, it comes down, I'm going to do some show and tell, because I'm a real strong believer in show and tell. My wife believes that too. I'm 5.5 going on 6. She's a second grade teacher. That's why we get along so well. Hang on. What happened? Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I was hoping to do it back there, but they don't have the wireless mic that works. I think that would. Let's try it.
Testing. Here you go.
Is it going to work now? Testing. Can you hear that one? Okay. I'll talk loudly into it. I'm the oldest of 8 kids too. In order to be able to be heard, you have to be loud. Okay. They still can't see back here. And a bunch of you can't see either. Some of you are not going to be able to see. I guess we're just going to have to live with that. Okay, so we made a recommendation. I'm going to go through and explain to you how whatever is decided has to be addressed, in my opinion, and I think there are a bunch of other people that share my opinion on this. But this is, first of all, bankruptcy and negotiation, they're only tools. They're tools to give us a result. There are 4 steps, as far as I'm concerned, in order for us to get a result. First of all, we have to define what that result's going to be. And that result should be, we all agreed, was a community that we wanted to raise, I'm paraphrasing, our grandkids in, and for us to be able to grow old. Essentially, we talked about quality of life things. And at that point in time, back in 92, 93, we were concerned about potholes then. It's not nearly as bad as it is today. So anyway, define the end result, because everything that you do has to be bounced off of that end result. The second thing is identify the obstacles between where you are and that end result. Create a plan that will give us the result that we want, and identify the first things that you got to do. And then the last is implement that plan. Okay. Back in 92, 93, that I was looking at the numbers that the city had given us about their budget situation. And I stood up and I had a whiteboard behind me and I drew a couple of lines. Looked very similar to this. And I raised my hand and I said, you know what these numbers tell us? These tell us the very next fiscal year, there's not going to be enough money to pay the benefits and the salaries for our city employees, not counting the health insurance that goes on for lifetime for public safety employees. So that was excluded. It wasn't even included in this. But the numbers said this is what's going to happen. We made our recommendation in May of 93. The very next year, 94, 95, the two lines collided. So what we have here, there's a green line and a red line. The green line is the money, the income that's coming in. The red line is employee costs only. And you can see that they collide right here. That's exactly what happened, and that's since 1994, 95, the city has balanced the budget by cutting and gouging. Cutting expenses, cutting staff positions, cutting the maintenance of roads, all the different things that you've noticed over the last 15 years, and also raising taxes. I mentioned something about comparing to Fairfield. Let me give you a number. I didn't write this down because I didn't think about it until Robert was talking. $8 million. Now, what does that mean? What that means is if you compare Fairfield's budget to Vallejo's budget, you divide Fairfield's budget by the population of Fairfield, you divide Vallejo's budget, $82 million, by the 120,000 population here, you come to a number that's equal to the amount of revenue that's collected per resident. You're with me, right? Okay. The difference between those two is $70 per resident. When you multiply $70 per resident times $120,000, you come to roughly $8 million. Vallejo collects and spends from each one of us $8 million more than Fairfield does. And we're still $10 million in the hole. And we still don't get the same level of service that the residents of Fairfield do. There's something wrong with that, isn't there? The problem happens to be the type of deficit. Fairfield runs deficits every once in a while. In fact, they have, I believe, a $7 million deficit this year. There are two different types of deficits. One is called a structural, and one is called cyclical. Structural. What that means is you go out and you earn a living. You get your paycheck. You have a chance to work overtime. You take all that money and you spend it on everything that you possibly can, meaning you save nothing. And you're living like that income will be there and keep increasing year after year after year. Then all of a